Roman Reigns is here to claim what he made very clear he's hungry for on Raw. Bronson Reed's gargantuan Samoan cement mixer. His fire exit. Reigns is coming for that big chunky ass. Oh my goodness. Utterly appalling commentary for this match. Wade Barrett tried to make out that Reigns' multi-year reign on top as the tribal chief was superior to the multi-year reigns of old because it's a different time or some nonsense. Look, don't take my word for it. Look at the stats. They're out there. The wrestlers with longer world title runs than Reigns in WWE history, Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund, and Hulk Hogan, all worked far more defenses than Reigns did, who spent a large portion of 2023 in absentia despite being the champ. This match between Reigns and Reed took an age to actually kick off, with both guys just standing around as the French crowd chanted a whole bunch of nonsense. When they finally started wrestling, the action was slow and plodding. There was a funny moment where Reigns baited Reed into a strong-style exchange, only to uppercut him silly when he took the bait. That set up the basic psychology of the bout quite well, as Reigns' veteran big match instincts allowed him to outwit the stronger, heavier, more aggressive Reed, who was frequently overcome with arrogance and showboating when he took the lead of the match. More retarded commentary, as Michael Cole said Roman Reigns ruled the WWE for 5 years. His big tribal chief run was not even 4 years long as a champion. These guys are idiots. How much are they even paid to not even do basic fact-checking for a major live broadcast with millions of viewers? Creepy moment where Quentin Tarantino would have been very impressed if he was watching. Bronson Reed kissed Roman Reigns' sneaker. When Reed first stole Reigns' shoes a few weeks back, it was a cool, funny heel moment. It felt organic and it got some heat, so of course Triple Nose and his orgy pals had to run it into the ground by trying to turn it into a little bit. A recurring joke week to week, to the point that this feud is about the shoes more than anything else. The closing stretch revolved around Reigns avoiding that dreaded tsunami, leading to a great Samoan drop on the Aussie from the middle rope. Reed walked too close to Reigns for the closing spear, halting how much momentum the OTC could actually get on it, so we got a softer, lower impact spear than normal from him. Serious Jey Uso spear vibes going on. Post-match, another strange moment as Roman Reigns slapped a guillotine choke on that hideous overactor Paunch Hayfat, who proceeded to furiously tap on Reigns' ass. It's a very strange visual. Now, obviously, the real meat of the matter here wasn't the match itself, but the post-match beatdown. Bron Breakker demolished Reigns with a spear through the announcer table, showing more energy than anyone actually involved in the match. Him and Reed crushed Reigns until he needed a stretcher. This is when it got hilarious, as Jey Uso only bothered to come out and help his cousin after he was rendered a paralyzed, stretcher-laden cripple. Maybe Uso hasn't forgiven Roman Reigns all that much, after all. Uso, as always, portrayed as an idiot who gets hurt trying to help others, got flattened by a Breakker spear for good measure. The visual of the security guards kindly just moving out of the way for Reed so he could splash Reigns one last time was just hilariously fake and hokey. So there you go, looks like Reigns is going back on vacation. Again. See you around War Games time, I guess. Maybe. The post-match heat-building angle was genuinely better than the actual match here. Sadly, it appears the OTC has officially entered his phoning-it-in phase. Speaking of heat, Adam Pearce appeared to be sweating buckets, like an MD using idiot at a summer rave. Not that I know what that's like, of course. Pearce informed Rollins' two favourite hole resizers, his top men, his spit roasters, B&B sodomy, B&B security, sorry, that they are officially banned from the building. Take a hike, toy boys. Daddy's working alone tonight. Absolutely appalling camera work and editing in the next match. The Street Profits versus the Wyatt Sucks had a story in the early stages that emphasized tension between Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. Part of that was Ford tagging himself in quite disrespectfully, annoying Dawkins in the process. And the camera missed it. Cole and Barrett had to explain what we were clearly meant to see happen but missed out on. Utterly disgraceful. The match itself had its moments, but the heat-building segment with Ford as the babyface in peril seriously dragged. Dawkins' hot tag redeemed it slightly, though, as the big man showed off his insanely nimble movements and agility for such a big, chunky heavyweight. Pretty much everything the Prophets do between the ropes looks great, and this match was no exception. Both of them are so athletic and lively, they bring a lot of energy to the ring, but the Wyatt sucks and their hokey Rob Zombie movie reject act dragged this down frequently. For example, Ford does a very nice somersault sequence to escape an attack from Loomis. It's over the top and silly, sure, but it looks cool. And then Loomis, in response, does what can only be described as a blowjob crawl up to Ford. What the hell is that? Anyways, the Prophets eventually put their heads together enough to pull off an excellent Doomsday Device blockbuster combo, leading into an actually quite dismal sequence, unfortunately, where Gacy tried to use Loomis as a weapon. The timing was all off and cack-handed here, hampering the heat the match had managed to build up in the prior exchanges. The finish, this is where it really fell off, saw Nikki Cross, the single worst actress in women's wrestling history, and Uncle Jubby interfere to set up the champs flattening Ford for a successful title defense. Decent tag match with some really impressive spots and exchanges. The hokey madness of the Wyatt crew, though, it just dragged the work rate of this bout down. That might seem like a minor criticism, but there just wasn't enough story or character work to make that a worthy sacrifice either. It appears the seeds of a Street Profits split have been planted, so based on Triple Nose's usual glacial pace of booking, I suppose we'll see one of these two turn on the other in 2027. There was an ad for that disgusting WWE Unreal show here. I refuse to watch it. And it reminded us all of how fake this fake show about fake fighting and fake feuds is. Ow! I can't even speak properly. I don't know if I was going to say it's fake or it's gay just then. It is both, though, so make of that what you will. We get it, all right? We understand. WWE is fake, thank you. We get it. It's okay. Just let's watch the show. Anyways, the footage was of CM Punk talking about his WrestleMania main event earlier this year. And you know, CM Punk didn't come across as a bad guy in the footage at all. What I'm saying here is not a diss on him in any way. He's main eventing this show tonight, though, this French show. And the WWE just screened footage on the show of him discussing his fake scripted career. Make it make sense. You know, when I go and see one battle after another next month, do you think half an hour into the film it will cut to Leonardo DiCaprio out of character telling me how I should be more careful about the environment while he flies his private planes? No. That's not how storytelling works. We know it's fake, but let us enjoy it while it's on. In no way, shape or form does it enhance the entertainment value or immersion factor of this or any other WWE show. I know I'm going on about it, but it's just really pissing me off. As much as watching a stupid show can piss you off unless you're insane. Anyways, I had to work yesterday. It was a dreadful set of hours. 1 p.m. I started. 10 p.m. I finished. Driving around town. Driving to another city. It's appalling stuff. Dealing with retards, as per usual. So I thought I'd treat myself today. I saw Becky Cringe and that woman John Cena didn't want to marry a few years ago were on, so I dropped some gin, some sweet vermouth, and some Campari on ice with a slice of orange. Gotta have that orange to complement the Campari, you see. The Negroni, that's what it's called. It's a lovely cocktail. Good way to get drunk quickly. And yes, I do indeed have a spirits collection at my flat. Ever since I watched Mad Men 10 years ago, I've always had one of them. And I often have company, and none of us have outgrown the binge drinking of our college days. What do you want me to say here? I'm teetotal? I'm converting to Mormonism? No. Anyways, I looked up from my delightful, liver-destroying beverage to see what was meant to be, I think, Nikki Bella slamming Becky Cringe's head against the announcer's tables, both of them, and Lynch just slapping the tables, not even trying to get her head near the tables enough to sell the attack like it was an actual attack. This was like watching kindergartners trying to wrestle. Absolutely no impact or realism. Simply appalling stuff. So I made another Negroni, more ice from the freezer, and by the time I'd finished that bad boy, Nikki Bella had her own take on her ex-not-husband's STF. And to be fair, it was actually applied quite well. It was kind of a bulldog choke at the front, whilst having the toes held at the back. So yeah, it was actually alright. Terrible match, but the submission hold looked okay. This match was so clumsy, there was so much separation and air in their exchanges between them. And then you remember the top women's prize on Raw is vacant right now. And it's just staying that way, apparently, for now, to play up this past it has-been's attempts at auditioning for acting roles via wrestling, with her melodramatic heel act no one seems to be all that into. What a slug! Lynch got a win with a backslide. I don't care. Do you care? No. Of course you don't. No one does. Newsflash, it's not 2019 anymore. The man is a eunuch. And fans want to see Stephanie Vacation and Io Sky and Wea Whipwee. We're done with Seth Rollins' beard, thank you. We all know he likes a big hard cuck at night. Alright, the cat's out of the bag, so send the old bag home already. Sheamus out next to put over a man who has been released from his cuck cage for the night. Lana's bulls are on break until the Redeemer comes home from Paris to continue watching them have their way with his woman. The intro to this match acted like their bouts on Raw were these epic wars with loads of crowd heat. Anyone who actually watched them can confirm they were piss-poor knockoffs of Sheamus's very good brawls with Gunter from a while back, and the crowds for Sheamus versus Rusev really weren't that fussed. These two worked very stiff here, clubbering each other with hard strikes and objects. Sheamus showed off some rock-solid strength when he hoisted Rusev up for a razor's edge. This match was quite clunky and awkwardly paced, but both men worked very hard, and there were some seriously crazy bumps that popped the crowd. Rusev put Sheamus through a wooden bar, literally a bar, like a bar you would go to and drink from, with a big uranagi on the outside. This looked and sounded brutal. It was a fantastic bump, and you could just about feel the air leave Sheamus's lungs for a second on impact. Sheamus clapped back later with a white noise off of some big barrels into two product placement tables on the outside. The closing stretch got the job done in selling Rusev as a cutthroat menace. He tortured Sheamus with a shillelagh in the Accolade hold until the Ginger Warrior tapped. It was good stuff. Overall, this was an okay match. It was entertaining, but it was very flawed. Bit cumbersome here and there, and blatantly cooperative during the bigger spots, but also violent and angry, especially by WWE's comically soft standards a lot of the time. If WWE seriously think Rusev can be a somebody, then this win is a big step in the right direction to pushing. Alright, so John Cena is a babyface again. Logan Paul is one of the least likable men on planet Earth. The face versus heel dynamic was a very easy sell to this live crowd, with seemingly everyone in the building very loudly rooting for John Cena from the get-go. They told an interesting story here of veteran Cena often struggling against the younger, more athletic, more aggressive Paul, who had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He had something to prove against the star he grew up watching, and Paul actually sold this quite well. He had a real bit of intensity and anger about his face in this match. His obsession with showboating. He really did sell the idea that he was determined to humiliate the guy he'd once been a big fan of. As the match wore on, the tide began to change, with Cena putting on an old-school, resilient babyface performance, surviving Paul's explosive offense, and even rising to the occasion further, planting Paul with some fresh stuff of his own, including a Styles clash, and something that started off looking like a Tiger Driver, but ended up landing like an angel's wings. A lot of near falls here, as Paul was allowed to show some grit too, showing off some real toughness and durability despite his arrogant heel persona. Ultimately, Paul's bad attitude cost him everything, as he spent an absurdly long time showboating, giving Cena time to recover and put him away for good, with the AA. The psychology of this match was excellent, with both guys doing strong character work and selling throughout. The storytelling made sense and it fit the build. And the finish was an amusing homage to Cena infamously letting his ego get the better of him against The Rock at WrestleMania 28. The only real criticism here is in just how awkward some of the exchanges were, as these guys experimented with moves and setups they clearly weren't exactly masters of. Logan Paul's buckshot lariat is quite simply not on the level of Hangman Page's. This is not WWE versus AEW, this is just comparing one move, two men. They both execute it quite different. Once Page gets over the ropes, he springboards off his feet upon landing, bulldozing through his opponent with a very stiff lariat. Paul does a much nicer looking jump over the rope, but he stalls upon landing and then has to restart his momentum for a much lighter lariat in comparison. Cena, meanwhile, seemed to have a little brain fart moment before he went for that weird Angel's Wings variant, but these are minor criticisms for what was overall, I'd say, a great WWE match. And just the second actually good singles match of Cena's retirement run so far. Match of the night overall, and one of Paul's best since joining the promotion. Oh, so there was an interview with Zest Fruity Rollins, the Monday night sodomite. He was talking about the hemorrhoids he'd incurred from Paris's gigolos or something. I don't know, I wasn't really listening, I needed a wee. Main event time. Wade Barrett threw LA Knight under a bus on commentary, noting how his win over Rollins back at Saturday night's main event the other month was nonsense, since Rollins had that pretend knee injury going on. For some reason, Barrett really wanted you, the fan, to know that Knight was barely even worthy of being here. What a way to get a main event competitor over with the folks at home. Zest Rollins was wearing some blue, pink, and white tights. It appears being the zestiest man in the world isn't enough. That color combination's far away from a rainbow. In fact, that hints at a new flag for this guy to wave. It looks like he'll be heading to Tyler Rex's transitioning clinic very soon. Seriously though, those tights looked absolutely appalling. Heel Rollins was outnumbered 3-1, making him oddly sympathetic as he fought the odds of 3 men out to hurt him. The 3 faces goofed around like this was a PWG match or something. And CM Punk did the weakest, least enthusiastic Bubba Ray Dudley impression of all time when he told Jey Uso to get the tables. There were some interesting character moments here, including Uso taking Roman Reigns' advice to heart and super kicking Punk rather than working with him. Later on, Knight got some payback on Punk from the other week, sending him through a table on the outside that Punk barely broke. Rollins was going for a dramatic heel moment with LA Knight at one point, where he was trying to gloat about the fans caring more about him than Knight, but there were scattered cheers and Rollins sing-alongs at best for him. So he just looked a little silly, pandering to an audience he should be trying to elicit heat from, rather than cheers. And calling back to Becky cringe earlier, both Rollins and Uso here sold and bumped getting hit against an announcer's table very well, much more realistically than Lynch did. Rollins in particular genuinely looked like he was clattering into it. Maybe he can give her some notes at the hotel later tonight, you know, if they share a room. Some married couples do. In the closing stretch, Rollins was allowed to briefly look very strong, handing out beatings to Punk, Uso, and Knight. Unfortunately, he got too amped up, trying to hurt CM Punk, his unhealthy obsession with Phil Brooks striking again, leading to him catching his leg in a steel chair like a bear trap, like something out of Tom and Jerry. Punk hits him with a GTS, and then sets up another one, smiling, showing us all his revolting, plaque-infested teeth. Good grief! How on earth does AJ Lee kiss that mouth? I want to know. I don't want to know, actually. Anyways, Becky Lynch came out and ruined this match, so my enthusiasm died with that, and then it ended. The show was over. I was actually somewhat enjoying this silly show until then. Bad enough Lynch ruins the women's division that I don't really care about. Now she's infecting the men's, which I do pay some attention to, with her cringe syndrome as well. Whatever. All you really need to know is that the World Heavyweight title remains in the gay community. For now.